breaking news in the Jodi Arias trial. The prosecution says it will go forward. It will retry Jodi Arias to try and convince a jury that she should be executed by lethal injection. But also tonight, Jodi's defense team saying it needs a 6-month delay. That's right, half a year. Is this a stall tactic to try to save Jodi's life? Good evening. I'm Jane Velez-Mitchell coming to you live.
I think she should be on death row until she dies.
If I'm found guilty, I don't have a life.
I said years ago that I'd rather get death than life, and that still is true today.
They're all united and standing firm with the same position. They want Jodi Arias to have the death penalty.
If I killed Travis, I would beg for the death penalty.
I don't want to have to see my brother's murderer anymore.
Well, the worst outcome for me would be natural life. I would much rather die sooner than later.
As I stand here now, I can't in good conscience ask you to sentence me to death.
We all believe that she deserves the death penalty.
Jodi convicted of premeditated murder in the brutal killing of her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander. But she still doesn't know if she'll spend the rest of her life in prison or be executed. The jury hung on that crucial question, saying they couldn't agree on that life or death question. Tonight, we're learning Jodi will face a new jury in a mini trial to decide life or death.
That convicted murderer Jodi Arias, whom a jury also unanimously found committed her murder in an especially cruel manner, was found legally competent to both stand trial and face the death penalty. At this point, we are still preparing to move forward to retry the penalty phase.
And within moments of learning that, the prosecution still wants death for Jodi. Her defense team came out swinging with a laundry list of reasons to postpone, claiming they want to wait, are you sitting down, people, till 2014 for the penalty phase retrial. What do you think about a 6-month delay? I want to hear from you. Call me, 1-877-JVM says, 1-877-586-7297. You may remember that the only person who spoke up for Jodi in the mitigation phase, where you plead for the defendant's life, was Jodi herself. Straight out to my exclusive guest, Jodi's best friend from grade school, Patti. Patti, you were supposed to speak for Jodi in the mitigation stage, but you didn't, and there's been a lot of controversy as to why you didn't. Tonight, I understand you want to set the record straight as our exclusive guest. So, Patti, tell us, what happened that made you not want to testify?
Well, I was in fear of my life, my safety of my child's life. The people who followed the Jodi Arias case so aggressively were intimidating and made me scared. They posted my name on all kinds of support sites, internet sites. They posted my address, my home address, with a description of what my house looks like with a map. And they've just done so many cruel things to me, as hacking into my Facebook, stealing pictures of me and my daughter, and just saying horrible, nasty things about my family and I. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I didn't testify. You know,
are you still sometimes afraid for your life?
Pardon?
Are you still sometimes afraid for your life?
I'm really worried, and I'm sad that the jury didn't come up with a verdict, because I'm worried that, this is all going to start over again. And I'm just now feeling better about my safety and, just my mental health, because everything is dying down. And now that she wasn't convicted, I kind of do fear again.
Well, let's try to understand where you're coming from. Now, Jodi spoke on the witness stand about how she had an idyllic childhood. Listen to what she told CBS.
My childhood was almost ideal. I have a big family. We're all very close.
Now, Patti, you knew Jodi during the childhood years. She was your best friend from grade school. You're upset because you're saying people are blaming you for knowing somebody who grew up to become a killer, but you're not psychic. You had no idea that when you were her friend in grade school, she would grow up to become a killer. Again, you want to set the record straight, so what are your thoughts in that regard?
You know, Jody and I were childhood friends, and that's nothing more than just childhood friends. And, you know, there's nothing that I could have said to even persuade the jury in another direction or anybody else because, you know,
Patti? Patti, are you there? Oh, we lost her, but we're going to get her back. I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? We're going to go to our debate panel. Oh, hey, you there still? We lost you for a second. We lost you for a second. First of all, let me ask you, has this been difficult for you emotionally? Because you knew her as a child. You guys were friends in grade school. You had nice memories, and then this horror grows up. Again, you're not a psychic. How would you know what somebody's going to do in the future? How has this impacted you emotionally, Patti?
Well, of course, you know, being so close to somebody for so many years, and she's just a beautiful person, and, you know, it's just, you never know what, I never expected this, you know. I don't know, I mean, who could ever tell? She was such a good person. And knowing that I shared so many good memories with her, it's hard. It's hard to know that, like, somebody could ever take somebody's life. And, you know, we've all lost somebody in this horrible situation.
What I'm hearing from you, Patti, is that you are not in any way, shape, or form condoning or making excuses for what she did. Because I spoke to you leading up to this interview that we're doing, and you're saying, hey, I'm horrified, but I knew somebody when I was a kid who was a nice kid. I don't know what happened to make her this killer, and it hurts me, but I'm not defending the horrible things she did. Am I characterizing your feelings correctly?
Yes, absolutely. In no way do I support what Jody did. You know, I find it horrifying that she felt that she had to go that far, as in taking somebody's precious life. But I do not support her. You know, at the beginning, when everything all started, you know, I was confused and didn't know what to believe, as a lot of people out there. And so as soon as I found out that, you know, she really did take Travis's life, my heart was broken for, you know, Jody's family and Travis's family. It's a horrible thing, and I do not condone it. I do not support what she did, and I do not support Jody.
Now, you also want to set the record straight about something else, Patti. Reports are you were supposed to testify for Jody, but you had a change of heart, and you're explaining that. But Prosecutor Martinez alluded to drug problems in reference to you. Let's watch this, and I know you want to say something about that.
I conducted an interview with Ms. Womack. On 2 separate occasions, she failed to answer my questions. Specifically, the first occasion occurred when I started to talk about her drug use as it involved the witness and the defendant. At that point, she deferred and chose not to answer.
Oh, so Prosecutor Martinez mentions drugs. You want to set the record straight. This is your opportunity to do so, Patti.
Well, I have never had a drug problem. I've never been convicted of any drug arrest. And, you know, for Juan to say that about me, it actually really disappointed me because I had a lot of faith in him. I thought he was a great guy for doing what he was doing, and then here he is telling what feels like the whole entire world that I'm this drug addict, and I'm not, and I've never been arrested for these drugs. And, you know, people have just fed off of what Martinez has said and made these horrible accusations of me, you know, telling me that I should burn in hell and saying horrifying things about my family. And it's just, I'm sad that it came down to that.
Well, I know that this is something you wanted to get off your chest, and I hope that we've done it in a way that is fair. I know that having researched you, you're a soccer mom, as they say. I don't know if it's actually soccer, but that you're constantly working with your child to get her to various events, and that you're a devoted mother. And you know what? This case has destroyed so many lives. It has destroyed, obviously, the Alexander family shattered. Not to mention, obviously, the man who was viciously killed. Jody Arias' family, the family has done nothing wrong. They didn't commit a crime. Their lives have been destroyed. Even a childhood friend who knew her in childhood. That's all she knew. She knew her long before any of this happened. You could see the impact on her life. So I hope that folks will leave you alone, Patti, and realize you're not a psychic. You had no idea what this kid that you knew back in grade school would grow up to do. And so that's it. Leave her alone. On the other side, we're going to debate this whole issue of should this mini retrial be pushed back to 2014? And what do you think? Call me.
Is Ms. Arias taking medication to treat this terrible PTSD disorder?
She was a woman with low self-esteem.
Oh my gosh. That is so debasing. I like it.
Before they booked me, can I clean myself up a little bit? I said years ago that I'd rather get death than life, and that still is true today.
If a conviction happens, I know that I won't be the first person to be wrongly convicted and possibly wrongly sentenced for either life in prison or the death penalty. And personally, if I had my choice, I would take the death penalty because I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison.
Well, first of all, I want to go out to my expert panel and ask them what they thought of what Patti had to say. I just think it's really unfair to attack somebody because they happen to know Jodi Arias is a child. Dwayne Cates, you're out there in Arizona, criminal defense attorney. What's your thought on that?
You know, I think I want to commend you, Jane. I think you did a wonderful thing. This poor girl didn't do anything wrong, and she was viciously attacked on the internet and slandered, and they made pictures of her with devil horns, and you know, and you helped her clear her name, and I think it's a wonderful thing that you did.
Well, thank you. I mean, you know, it's something that I think is just unfair. How do you know what's going to happen to somebody down the road? You don't know that. It's not like she's been putting up websites. There's other people who apparently are putting up like Free Jody, Jody's Innocent website. She's not one of them. She's not involved in any of that, and she makes it very clear that she condemns what Jodi Arias did. And I'll throw that to John Lieberman.
Yeah, well, look, I agree. I mean, the one thing she said that struck me a little bit was she said the threats were one reason why she didn't testify. So I was wondering what the other reasons were, and she didn't really address why she didn't answer Juan's questions. But that being said, you know, obviously she shouldn't be attacked personally because, look, even she admitted in the interview with you, Jane, a very good interview, that nothing she could have said could have mitigated any of this, in her opinion. That's what she said, that nothing she could have said would have made a difference to the jury, she thinks.
Well, let me just say that having talked to her in a pre-interview, the other reason she said is that she didn't want to defend what Jodi did. That was the other reason she told me that she didn't speak up, because she didn't want to defend that. I guess, you know, originally she might have thought, well, I could just say I liked her as a child, but this case got really complicated, and once she realized what she had done, she said, no, I can't defend that. So nobody spoke up for Jodi except Jodi. Jodi's team pulled out all the stops for her defense, including putting every lewd or sexually graphic part of her relationship with Travis on display. Remember this?
Do you remember seeing emails in which Mr. Alexander referred to Miss Arias as a, quote, wonder?
Yes, I did.
As a slut?
Yes.
As a whore?
Yes.
Well, one of the reasons for the delay is Jodi's team says they need more time because their calendars are totally booked through July and August. Now, some cynics might wonder if they purposely stacked their calendar to push the retrial on life or death back. Let's debate it with our expert panel. Do they really need 6 more months? Do we really have to wait until 2014, or is this a stall tactic beginning with Jordan Rose for the prosecution?
Oh, Jane, this is such nonsense. They've had 5 years to prepare for this. They were very well prepped and ready to go just a month ago. And to ask for more time and to push it into 2014 is a joke. It's ridiculous. I don't know what the end they attempting to achieve here, but it's crazy. It's a disservice to the system of justice, to our public, and we get on with it. How could they be more prepared? There's
Adams
no way.
Winkle
There's no more preparation necessary.
First of all, Jane, that interview that you just did was so powerful, so insightful, and what it does show is exactly why they need this kind of time in order to give Jodi a fair opportunity at a fair hearing. The emotions of this case are boiled over. They're so strong right now. This is an individual who needs to be able to testify to the things they need her to testify to. It is very critical that not only these witnesses be able to come forward, but also let the emotions die down so that appropriate jury can be impaneled.
Oh my goodness!
Because right now, excuse me, right now it's out of it's out of control. I believe the question was addressed to me. It's out of control. It's out of control.
John Lieberman. First of all, the whole point of the interview was that she doesn't want to testify for Jodi Arias, but continue on, John Lieberman.
Yeah, she doesn't want to testify. That's her choice, and I believe that was part of her point in doing the interview. She doesn't want to be a mitigating factor. She doesn't want to be a mitigating witness. But Jodi Arias has had such a fair trial. Adam, let me finish. Jodi Arias, this judge went out of her way to make sure that Jodi Arias had a supremely fair trial. At this point, it's just stalling. It's just keeping Jodi Arias relevant, which is all Jodi Arias really wants. We have to get through this next phase and get through it.
Dwayne,
the time is now.
They got their crack at the apple, and now they need time. They didn't get the death penalty the first time around. There's no need to rush. She's not going anywhere. It's not like they can't give her the death penalty. We just want to rush to get the answers that we want to get.
Because the victim's family deserves the answer. The victim's family has been going through this for 5 years. The Alexanders have gone through this for 5 years. She got a fair trial. Now let's get the resolution.
And the jury didn't put her to death. And now you want to rush to phase 2.
But let me say this. Isn't this really just about, they just found out, the defense just figured out that their witness, their only witness to Jodi's character, has gone sideways. She has no desire to testify on Jodi's behalf, and frankly, she hasn't known her for some time. She knew her since she was a kid. It's irrelevant. So now they have to go search for a Jodi friend, and they've had 5 years to come up with a Jodi friend, and they haven't found one.
I still do not understand why her mother did not take the stand at her own defense. I mean, look, if they want to have somebody testify in the mitigation phase, the mother doesn't need time to calm down or for things to cool down. I mean, she's right there. There's her sister. They did not testify. They chose not to speak on their daughter and sister's behalf. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We've got calls lined up, and there's more controversy about the financial aspect of this, the emotional aspect of this. Stay right there.
If she gets the death penalty, unfortunately, it'll be about 17 to 20 years before that actually happens. But ultimately, our family is in a consensus that we all believe that she deserves the death penalty.
And being on death row, you're by yourself and you don't get to interact with the other inmates, and that's what she deserves, to be by herself, to think what she did to my brother. I think she should be on death row until she dies.
I'm ready to meet my maker, but if that time should come.
Local affiliate reporter Amy Murphy from KNXV spoke to Jodi one-on-one and says she thinks she's totally insane. Listen to this.
Every question that I asked her, it didn't matter how severe the question was. She was unfazed by it, and she was that way in court as well. So many times, people, felt that she was cold, and she did appear that way. She appeared uncaring for a lot of that testimony, and seeing her one-on-one like that, I truly believe that she was on meds. One of my contacts at the jail confirmed that she is, but they wouldn't be able to tell me whether they were antidepressants or antipsychotic meds. It's almost as if her eyes are black when you're looking into them, and it wasn't necessarily a feel of evil that I got from her as insanity.
Let's debate it with our expert panel. In the penalty phase retrial, which prosecutors now say will happen. The question is when. Do you think that the defense is now going to take a new tack instead of fighting the prosecution's contention that she has borderline personality disorder, which is a mental illness? Haven't they indicated they're going to embrace that and try to use crazy as a mitigator? And I'll start with Dwayne Cates.
Absolutely, they're going to use this as a mitigator. 3 mental health professionals got on the stand and said that she has mental illness. I mean, they have to use it. Now, number one, Jody Arias can tell them not to use it. So it's going to be up to her. If she says, hey, I don't want you to tell people that I'm crazy, they can't use that in her defense because she's the client and they got to do what she says. I think that's the only reason they didn't use it in the first place.
I found it very odd, Jordan Rose, that they would argue with the prosecution when the prosecutor said she had borderline personality disorder and brought on Dr. Demartey to make that point. I thought, why aren't you embracing this? This is a potential mitigator down the road. And yet now they've changed their tune, and they are saying that. They are saying it's wrong to sentence a mentally ill woman to death, even though they argued against her being mentally ill in the case in chief, in the main trial.
I agree. It's fascinating, and it turns out that this may be the only mitigator, given that they don't have the mom, the sisters, they don't have any friends, and so they have to embrace her craziness. But the thing is that everyone who kills someone, we have to imagine, is crazy. But are they insane by definition of law? Which means this crazy one couldn't understand what she was doing.
I got to jump in, Jordan, and I got to ask you this question, Jordan. Is there a different type of crazy? Obviously, you can't plead not guilty by reason of insanity if you know right from wrong. The fact that she premeditated the case shows she knows right from wrong. She knew she was doing something wrong. She hid the evidence. But is there a different standard? I'm asking a legal question, a different definition of mental illness in the mitigation phase where, yes, she knew right from wrong, but her mental illness handicapped or crippled her decision-making power in some way. I'm just asking that as a point of law. Jordan.
Yeah, she can certainly talk, and they can talk about if this mental illness caused a mitigation, and maybe they will show that it did, and it impaired her judgment so greatly. But the jury still has to buy into the idea that this crazy person couldn't understand what she was doing.
Right.
And
the jury
she
already
did
bought into that.
it.
The jury already bought into that. It was 8-4.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
John Lieberman.
She washed the camera, for goodness sakes.
Well, look, she wasn't crazy enough to not be able to plan and carry out the execution of Travis Alexander. There are plenty of mentally ill people who have been given the death penalty. Being mentally ill or having a diagnosis like borderline personality disorder, if that's what it turns out to be or whatever, that's not a license to kill. That isn't a get out of jail free card or get off of death row free card. There are plenty of mentally ill defendants who have been put to death and who are on death row.
This is a very different issue. This isn't the guilt phase. This is the penalty phase. And you absolutely got to use this as a mitigator.
I'm saying they're going to use it, but I'm saying I don't believe it's going to work. Of course they're going to use it.
Yeah, they're going to use it.
It already worked once, and they didn't even use it.
It already worked.
What did you say, Dwayne?
I said it's already worked once. It was 8-4. It wasn't even close putting her to death.
Let me ask you this
and that jury
question.
saw
It was
everything.
8.
If they do, and they have announced they will, it's official now, they will go for this penalty phase retrial. How does the prosecution increase the odds? Okay, how does the prosecution increase the odds that they will get what they want, which is the death penalty?
I don't know how they do that. I think they did a pretty darn good job during the trial, and everybody else was saying how great Juan Martinez was and how he tore everybody up. And I don't know how the prosecution does better, but think of this. The defense gets a do-over. And you keep saying it's a mini trial. I don't think it's going to be a mini trial. I think they're going to do most of this all over again, and I think the defense learned a lot the first time through, and I think it'll be totally different the second time, and it'll probably be hung again.
My theory is that
totally
the
different 'cause this woman just
unconscious
lied.
bond. My theory has always been that her being on the stand 18 days and this trial dragging on for months created an unconscious bond with some of the jurors, and that 90% of communication is nonverbal, and most people make subconscious decisions, and they try to find a conscious logic to hang their hats on. And I just think they got to know her too well, and they couldn't bring themselves to do that because they got to know her. And the defense strategy of keeping her on the stand, even though she was talking nonsense and lying through her teeth, worked to that extent. That's my theory. Now, on the retrial, she may not be able to get on the stand for 18 days and yak and tell all sorts of stories. And so this new jury may not bond with her in the same way. Let's go out to the phone line. Stephanie, New Jersey, your question or thoughts. Stephanie.
Did Travis Alexander have 6 months extra to live?
No, he obviously did not. Continue on.
Why should she get 6 more months for a trial?
Well, let me ask you, that's an excellent point. And let me throw this at Dwayne Cates, because you're down there, and we stood outside that courthouse and talked about how you've done so many trials there. Do you think that the judge is going to say, oh, yeah, okay, if we have that calendar we put up earlier, okay, defense counsel, you're booked for July and August, so forget it. We'll do it in 2004. Do you think the judge is going to say, forget about it? You show up here, we're going to do this trial in August, and we'll give other lawyers to handle your cases that you're saying are preventing you from handling this case?
Well, first of all, they have a lot of other clients. Jody Arias wasn't their only client. There is no way that I could try this in July. I've got vacations planned. I've got other trials going on. I've got clients. It's not unusual for cases to get bumped because of conflicts. Number two is if the judge doesn't give them the extra time, that's a big issue on appeal.
So everybody, last yes or no, does everybody feel this retrial will start this summer or in 2004? Let's see the panel. 2004. Okay, who says, raise your hand, 2004. 2014, 2014. I'm a little, okay, you say 2000. I'm not raising my hand, I'm telling you to. Okay, so most people think it will happen this summer? This summer, raise your hand.
Summer.
Jordan, this summer? Okay, so we're split.
Absolutely.
Who knows? We don't know. Once again, we spoke exclusively to Patti. Jody Arias, his childhood friend, wanted to set the record straight. She does not condone Jody's killing of Travis Alexander. She's horrified by it. She wants people to leave her alone. She's a mom. She hasn't done anything wrong. She didn't speak on Jody's behalf. Listen to this, and then we've got an amazing story on the other side.
I don't know. Who could ever tell? She was such a good person. And knowing that I shared so many good memories with her, it's hard. It's hard to know that, somebody could ever take somebody's life.